Hello and welcome to the Common Colt Podcast. I'm Josh Hudgens, one of the hosts on the show, and with me is our co-host, Dan Hertzler. How's it going, sir?
Hey, man, it's great to be here. I'm excited for this.
I'm excited, and Colts fans, just to tell you a bit about the podcast, this is going to be what we hope is an authentic podcast done by true football fans, but also a realistic view on the Colts. And I think that Colts are a small market team. They don't get a lot of attention all the time. And sometimes when they do, it's usually by big fanatics. So what do you think about that?
No, I think this is just kind of where we are in 2022. I mean, the beauty is that any of us can sit here and talk about a team like the Colts and break them down. In a lot of ways, even though, we might not have some of that stuff behind us that indicates the professional like background or we played or things like that. We do know football and we've been watching football and we've been watching the Colts and we're fans. And so we're bringing that authenticity, as you say, as a true fan, that fanatic part of it, but also hopefully, call out some of the, maybe the favoritism, the homerisms that go on. And, I'm excited. I think this is going to be a pretty cool journey that we're on.
Yeah, for sure. Just to give a brief overview on myself, I've been watching the Colts since the fifth grade. The first year I watched the Colts, as Colts fans will remember, we beat the Bears in the Super Bowl. We went in. My first game I watched, Adam Vinatieri beat the Broncos on a game winner. I watched the 2009 Colts. I watched us go 14-0, then lose our last two, still make the Super Bowl, and then lose to the Saints. And now here we are, kind of in an interesting kind of crossroad, maybe with maybe the best roster we've had since 2009, possibly. I don't know. And that's kind of the reason why we're spawning this podcast. Dan, let's tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, so I can go back beyond the Peyton Manning days. I can actually remember, when Jim Harbaugh was throwing up Hail Marys there and potentially, almost beating the Steelers, which that is my team that I grew up with around and saw, and kind of a Western PA guy. But it's fascinating to know, and the Colts have always caught my eye because there's so many other connections to Western PA, to the Colts, which is fascinating. Bob Sanders, one of my favorite players. Just watching him throw his body around. He's not quite Western PA. He's an Erie guy, but kind of we'll take credit for him. You got Malik Hooker, another guy that I wish he could have latched on. So too many injuries that took place. I love that guy. Even Andrew Luck, his dad is right down the road in West Virginia, was a big part of West Virginia University. And so the Colts have always been a fascinating thing. But for me, the moment that was like just hooked into them was just Peyton Manning. I mean, he was the guy that took them from the laughing stock, kind of nobody cared about anything about them, and then all of a sudden they were this big thing. And then he just kept running into the Patriots and all that stuff. But 2006 Steelers Colts, to me, is probably the best or the most emotional game I've ever seen.
Yes.
With the Bettis fumble, the drunken Canadian missed kick.
Yes.
Even we forget Paul Mull had that easy interception that was overturned and kind of a crazy review. I mean, just so many wild things.
Nick
in that
Harper
game,
got stabbed in the leg the day before the game,
yeah.
and maybe Big Ben doesn't catch him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, all those like things that you would just, you couldn't even write a movie script with it. So the Colts have just been a really, and then watching them is just I think they're one of the top run organizations right now in the NFL. And that's what excites me most about being able to talk about this team, is that what they've gone through over the last few years, especially with the devastating, early retirement of Luck, and then having to pivot right in the middle of that to where they are now. I think, man, the future is kind of wide open, and it's an exciting time to jump on what's going on with the Colts.
Yeah, it is an exciting time, and what we're going to talk about today is a lot of roster stuff. Obviously, NFL Cut Day was this week, so let's go ahead. Let's get right into it here. Was there anybody on the roster you had your eye on kind of throughout preseason or training camp that you had your eye on? Obviously, the big story is Sam Ellinger, and I think we'll get to him in a second. But I heard some rumblings that you were looking at some of these defensive guys.
Yeah. So just a little background for me again is, man, I'm a huge tight end. I'm a huge safety guy. That's kind of the positions I played when I was younger. That's kind of the things that I feel like both of them require extreme knowledge to be able to play the game. They got to understand, plays and route combinations. The safeties got to understand man coverage, run support. So I'm huge in looking at them. I know there's been a lot of kind of talk about some of the tight ends, but I'm really excited about these young safeties. You got two young safeties that really have made a name for themselves. Obviously, Nick Cross looks like he's going to be a starter, and I think there might be a gem that you guys have found here in the third round. That
super athletic.
Yeah, he's super athletic. There's some knock on him as far as will he come down enough in run support, playing that strong safety position. We got to see that a little bit, but he's only 20 years old, so this guy is still developing. He's still learning the game, and you see Gilmore praising him right off the bat. I believe his second play of the preseason, not preseason, but just of training camp, he picked off Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
And that's a veteran, quarterback. That's, this is a rookie. So, man, all eyes are on him. And then, you got another guy you picked up in the 7th round. He's a local kid for me that I've been kind of watching throughout college and kind of excited. He ended up on the Colts. Is Rodney Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some big upside. He's a 7th rounder that doesn't, usually 7th rounders aren't locks to make teams. And he's just showed up everywhere, especially, you had the injury to Watts. He's going to be out for the year. So I'm just excited for these young guys on the back end of the defense, just keeping an eye on how they do as far as, keeping everything in front of them and just make sure there's no big plays. But, that's enough of my view. Josh, what's your thought on some of these guys?
Yeah, no, I love Nick Cross, especially. The guy is athletic and young. And thinking about pairing him with Julian Blackman, you already got Kenny Moore back there in the secondary, Shaquille Leonard, just a lot of good pieces. Kwity Paye on the defensive line. I think that defense is going to be a top 5 defense this year. But for me, roster-wise, it was kind of the big headline, I think, heading into cut week is, are the Colts going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster? Frank Reich said himself, he's like, hey, you know what? Most teams, they really don't like to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster, ideally. But Sam Ellinger was kind of playing out of his mind this past preseason, just having big game after big game, no turnovers, just efficient passing the ball. Showed some mobility, especially against the Bucs. Ripped off a huge run against the Bucs, and he put himself in a position where the Colts couldn't cut him because they were afraid to lose the guy. You try stashing him on your practice squad, something like that. You don't know if he's going to be there. Somebody else might steal him up. But the issue I've had with Sam Ellinger is this guy's played good, 3rd string. I mean, Nick Foles is a 2, and Colts fans are starting to. They're trying to latch on to this guy. Like, is this guy's the future? And I'm just kind of saying, hey, let's pump the brakes. He's good. He's been a good 3rd string quarterback, but he was a 6th round draft pick for a reason. This guy's 6'1". I mean, we can't be crowning this guy the Messiah just because he had a strong preseason. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that what's really fascinating. I mean, everyone talks about probably the most popular guy on a football team is the backup quarterback. Everyone in town believes that, if he just gets a shot, he just gets a chance, he's going to turn things around. I think on top of that, what the Colts fans are dealing with is 3 straight seasons now of getting veteran quarterbacks, not only veteran quarterbacks, but just guys Wentz quite not on his end, but he's, there's the jokes enough about him that you're getting these older guys, Rivers, Wentz, you got Matt Ryan. Mm-hmm. Now you got this young guy that comes in and you see some potential. He takes off on that 45-yard run, I think in the last preseason against the Bucs. You see the athleticism, you see the potential in that. But there's a lot of knocks on this guy. There's a lot of concerns coming out of Texas that he was a guy that held on the ball too long, trying to look for the home run. I think the NFL will eat up and chew up guys in the regular season that are trying to make that home run play. Like, one of the things that, we talk about Tom Brady all the time being such the GOAT is that he knew when to take what's there.
Yep.
And, Sam might be this guy that looks great in the preseason because there's a lot of vanilla defenses. There's not a lot of scheming. And so what does it look like in the regular season? So there is some let's pump the brakes. It's good that he made the team. It's good he made the roster. improvement from year two. Frank Wright's been just talking him up. I don't think a coach in the NFL does that unless he believes it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really positive thing. I think that's what you should get excited for. But really, any expectation that he's going to play this season and that's going to be a good thing for the Colts, I think you need to let that go.
Yeah, no, I agree. The good thing for him is he doesn't have to play. And he's sitting behind, and you can say what you want about Nick Foles, but the guy is a veteran quarterback. Matt Ryan, obviously, you know his pedigree, but even sitting behind a guy and working with Nick Foles, these guys know how to study, they know how to scheme, they know how to be professional, and that can only help a guy like Sam Ellinger, who isn't going to get thrust into a bad situation. So sitting another season or two, and maybe this guy can develop, but I'm very hesitant to be crowning this guy anything but a flash in the pan preseason quarterback at this point. Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about just this roster in general. And one thing, I seen Colin Cowherd talking a little bit about it not too long ago, and he said the Colts are good in the wrong positions, and he kind of goes on this tangent. He's like, they don't have a defensive end, right? They got Buckner, a defensive tackle, but really you want like a Dwight Freeney type of guy for you Colts fans. And they got a left guard, but really you want a great left tackle. And yeah, they got a stud running back, but really you want a franchise quarterback. And I thought about that, and you know, obviously some talking heads kind of have a script they have to go by, but the more I thought about it, the more I wonder is this Colts team just average, or they just kind of remind me of the Kansas City Chiefs of the 2010s. They're good. They'll kind of give you a tough game, but are they really ever going to win the big one?
Yeah, I think what we we've come to know, and I think what is going to make this podcast something again special and unique is that we're not just out here going to say things like Colin Cowherd that just looking for a reaction. I mean, to make the statement that they're good in all the wrong positions, that's a little bit of hyperbole, because they're good in a lot of good positions that matter in football. Let's not give too much credit there. The thing that we're going to look at, and we'll talk here about, is really about, can you build a team the way the Colts have and just keep kind of plugging and playing the veteran quarterback route.
Yeah.
That's what you were referring to about the Kansas City Chiefs, because you're talking about Alex Smith as the quarterback, and everyone was kind of shocked when they went ahead and got Mahomes, and nobody really kind of knew what was potentially sat for a year. Then all of a sudden they threw him in, and then we've kind of seen what has happened here. I think the Colts are really in a spot that, if you look at a team just a few years ago that have some connections with this team, with Frank Wright and Nick Foles, I think they're a lot like the Philadelphia Eagles that just had all the right pieces in the right play, and then all of a sudden Nick Foles jumps in there, pretty average quarterback, goes on a run, and all of a sudden wins a Super Bowl. We see it with the Baltimore Ravens a few years ago. So it can happen, but Josh, what we were talking about a little bit, and maybe you can explain on it, is the margin of error is so thin,
yes,
that so many things have to go their way.
Yes, and just thinking about connections, we talked about the Chiefs. Chris Ballard was actually an executive on the Chiefs before he came to Indianapolis. He was part of the team who scouted Patrick Mahomes. And so he knows what it takes. I mean, it's no secret that the quarterback position is a big deal. They knew that Carson Wentz was not the answer, and they very quickly moved on and admitted their mistake in that. And I think
which is a huge thing if you're honest. If you look at so many other teams out there, and that's why, again, the respect for what the Colts do is so high. Hey, we made a gamble, we took a gamble, and then we flip them for some draft picks, and really didn't lose much, and they kept rolling.
Yeah, and I love that. That's great. But this roster is with a franchise quarterback, I think, is primed to win a Super Bowl. But as constructed right now, I think the Colts are an above-average football team. When you consider Matt Ryan. I just do not see this team being a team that can go all the way and win a Super Bowl. I just don't see it. I just think that the receivers, Michael Pittman's solid. I think he'd be a great number 2 receiver. I think their tight end, Mo Alley Cox, is okay. I don't think that this team with Matt Ryan is scary enough in January or in February to outduel the quarterbacks in the AFC. Russell Wilson. I mean, the list goes on. And Mahomes, Herbert. What do you do?
Yeah, let me ask you this question, Josh. What would have to go right? So tell me 3 things right off the top of your head that would have to go right for this team that, again, we would acknowledge is built well, but still kind of stuck in that land of mediocrity, and that's a dangerous spot to be in the NFL. But what would have to go right this season for them to, let's just say make a push? Maybe not get a Super Bowl, but make a push like Cincinnati did or someone else.
Yeah. First things first, that pass rush has got to come together. You have DeForest Buckner. You got Kwity Paye. He had a solid rookie season. He's going to have to take a big jump year 2. Obviously, they traded for Yannick Ngakoue. He came from Oakland, or Las Vegas, excuse me. And he's going to have to come right in and get that pass rush. I think if you have that pass rush and then you've got an improved secondary, we're going to say with Nick Cross and Gilmore being added, I think that's one thing that if that pass rush gets there, that's going to help. Number 2, those receivers, somebody's going to have to step up. Can Paris Campbell stay healthy and finally have a good season? Can Alec Pierce, as a rookie, make plays with Matt Ryan? Somebody other than Michael Pittman is going to have to be able to catch the football and make a play to help out Matt Ryan. This guy's 37 years old. I mean, he's you got to help the guy out. And I think that overall, I mean, you look at Jonathan Taylor. You look at what he did last year. The Colts have came out and said it, and I tend to agree. I think that if you have to feed Jonathan Taylor as much as you did last year, you're not going to be in a good spot. You're just going to have other guys contributing. And Matt Ryan's going to have to be able to spread the ball around outside the numbers to tight ends, get Jelani Woods as a rookie to step up. Somebody else on that offense, Naheem Hines maybe. I don't think you can channel your offense through one player and be successful.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying and agree. I think the way I would break it down is almost the exact same way. I would just say that somebody has to step up, a playmaker. Someone's got to develop. Someone's got to take that next step. You see it every year in the NFL. People do it. So the Colts have all these guys that are kind of just floating at that line, just maybe second, third year guys, and someone's got to do it. The second thing is you can't have any injuries to the big guys. Yeah. Okay. Your defensive tackles, Stewart and Buckner, probably maybe the top duo in the NFL. Yeah. Yet there's nothing really much behind them. So if they get hurt, they're in big trouble. And then I'm going to put some on Frank Wright. I think he's a big part of whether or not they can make a run. And it's game management. It's making the right decisions with knowing who you have. You mentioned it a little bit with Jonathan Taylor and the amount of carries, and that starts early on. That starts with being wise in when you run, when you give them the ball, who you give breaks. But then, how many last kind of fourth quarter decisions and things happened last year. Now everyone easily can scapegoat Wentz and blame him, but Frank Wright's got, he's been this is his, I think, 5th season now. Yeah. Or it's going into the 5th season with the Colts. He's got a nice record. He's 1-2 in the playoffs, but you look at what the Eagles did, and Doug Peterson, he almost made every right decision in that run. Mm-hmm. You go back to, Peyton Manning with the Broncos, not a really great quarterback, great defense, but they made every decision that was right. And even all the way back to, Ravens with, Flacco, like the coaching is one of the keys that if everything goes right with someone stepping up, no injuries take place, it's going to come down to Frank Wright, and not that he's on a hot seat, but this is kind of going to be a make it or break it whether or not this team can take that next step. Yeah,
I agree. And two things that I think will also help this season. Frank really has not had a relationship with Matt Ryan. He had a close relationship with obviously Carson Wentz and Phillip Rivers before both of these guys joined the Colts. Matt Ryan's kind of unique. He never coached Matt Ryan. I think that relationship, just bringing in fresh ideas, Matt Ryan's going to be able to add that just totally new element to the offense and maybe give feedback that Frank hasn't had before. And another thing, defensively, Shaquille Leonard, that guy's still a question mark. We don't know how if he's going to start the season out for multiple weeks or not. I think that getting him back, not rushing him back, just getting him back healthy. I mean, that's a serious injury. It's a back injury. I think that you need to take your time with that and get him right and see if he can be healthy maybe October or whenever, November, and help make that playoff push.
Yeah, what's your thought on just his off season? It seems to have been kind of questions. Obviously anyone can change a name and not be a question, but there seemed to be some other stuff going on. You think he's all in?
Yeah, he big time player, and I know some people were making some Andrew Luck comparisons to Leonard because they're like, oh, this guy, he's a great player, but he kind of gets bit by the injury bug a lot. But you mentioned Bob Sanders earlier. I mean, that guy was a fierce competitor. Yep. Yeah, and Shaquille Leonard's kind of the same way. He throws his body around, makes big hits, makes big plays, knocks the ball loose. I think the Colts need to take their time with him, get him right, and I think he's gonna play big for him. You don't want to risk this guy's health for an extra game or two this season. This guy's got a long career ahead of him still.
And linebacker core right now, and we're seeing in the NFL starting to shift away from needing those three linebackers, or we're seeing more hybrid defenses. Yeah. So, but he's a special talent, and again, the Colts are in that realm of they don't have the luxury to again with not having that superstar quarterback or having a quarterback on a rookie deal. Those are the two best paths to winning a Super Bowl right now. And the Colts have neither of those two things. So they can't afford these types of nagging injuries to last longer and longer. So, that's kind of one of my keys in that. So, overall, I think today though, and I think you'd agree, the cut down day wasn't too shocking. I think, maybe Philip Lindsay, getting cut might be there, but I think we kind of knew who we're getting, and I think no moves were made, no trades. You saw some trades around the NFL, but again, were you surprised? Was there anything that shocked you today?
No, pretty standard stuff, like you said, Lindsay. There's some talk of special teams to just going for guys that can help out on special teams. I think the roster was cut and dry. I think we're ready to go to work. We got Houston coming up week 1, and I think this team has put a lot of focus and starting hot this season. They haven't won a week 1 regular season game since 2013 against the Raiders. That's all the way back to Andrew Luck's second year. That's been a long time. We're going on. We're going on almost 10 years, just about. So Colts fans are ready to win week 1. And this roster, I think, throughout the preseason, we've seen Matt Ryan play almost into the second quarter of a first preseason game of the year. This roster is ready to go, ready to win.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, you look at how the season ended last year. It wasn't technically a playoff loss, but it was basically a playoff loss in week 18 to the lowly Jags. And that's something that I'm sure, as this season starts moving on, again, the NFL is amazing about the mental aspects of it. Probably something we'll talk about at some point on here, but you think about the idea that, this team is right there. The division is winnable. You've got Tennessee's got questions. Houston obviously is kind of in a rebuild. Jags in a rebuild. So, this team is the team that should win this division. And as you said, they start out good, they get some momentum, they start believing in themselves, they start pushing that ball downhill, especially with Jonathan Taylor. Someone steps up. This might be something special going on here.
Yeah. No, I agree. We're ready for the season. The Common Colt Podcast crew. We're gonna try getting at you guys twice a week. Shows are going to last in between 20 and 25 minutes. So make sure you guys go ahead and follow us on YouTube. This will be on YouTube. We're going to be on all the major podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So make sure to follow us, share this, and make sure to catch us next time. But hey, I'm Josh Hudgens, and that right there, that's my host, Dan. Thanks for watching.